It's November 8th, 2021. Just a couple of weeks into a fresh new NBA season, the Denver Nuggets and Miami Heat suit up in Denver to play their first of two matchups this season. And it's the reigning league MVP, Nikola Jokic, versus the Eastern Conference champions from 2 seasons earlier, the Miami Heat. The Nuggets are up 111-94 late in the game against the struggling Miami Heat, who were barely shooting 40% from the floor for the game. And so, frustration and emotion started to quickly boil over as Markieff Morris at the bottom of your screen isn't happy that the Heat weren't given a foul call from the refs on this play. So, he took matters into his own hands by taking a direct line march towards Jokic. And that's when things really turned into a movie-like climax.
Was there. Nuggets have 5 on 4. And Jokic, oh no!
After this moment, the game remained paused for quite some time as the two teams had to be separated. Morris had to be helped off the floor, and Jokic was ejected from the game, as the direct aftermath of the game featured a $50,000 fine for Morris, a 1-game suspension for Jokic, and even a $30,000 fine for Jimmy Butler for escalating the situation.
I'm watching all these fools on television all day talk about this. Well, first of all, Morris started it. Joker retaliated. If you hit me, you better not turn your damn back, because I'm coming back at you.
But if this entire scenario was just left as it was after Jokic and Morris had their spat, perhaps things wouldn't have gone up another level. But after the initial smoke cleared, more burst out from the back as Udonis Haslem and mainly Jimmy Butler started screaming at the top of their lungs, supposedly at Jokic, telling him to bring his bleepity bleep to the back. And while Jokic can get physical and even sometimes over-emotional, as we saw that night, he doesn't often clap back with words right then and there. So he said nothing and just sat on the bench as he waited for officials to sort everything out. But Jimmy Butler wasn't lying about meeting him in the back.
Well, there is bad blood brewing between these two teams. Jimmy Butler at half court.
Or else, we don't get to see this famous snapshot of nearly the entire Miami roster waiting at the back door to fight the 285-pound Jokic, apparently. But gentlemen, if you thought this beef was a bit overblown and kind of overstated, well, you're wrong. Because it wouldn't be a modern-day NBA trash-talking battle if things didn't further manifest on social media. That's where Jokic's 2 mammoth-sized brothers took to Twitter to respond to Markieff Morris's shot at Jokic with a series of tweets, saying Morris was the one who made the dirty play, and if you have a problem with our brother Jokic, then we will be waiting for you. Anytime families get involved, ho, it's on. The Joker admitted that he felt a bit remorseful for his spur-of-the-moment reaction to Morris's shot at him, and said it was stupid of himself to do that.
It's a stupid play, I feel bad. I'm not supposed to react that way. I thought it's just gonna be like a take foul, so.
But he wouldn't forget what Jimmy Butler said to him and his team. Maybe Jokic wouldn't get his chance immediately to show the Heat and Jimmy Butler who's boss. He knew that it would only be a matter of time before he'd get the prime opportunity to stick it to the Heat. And so, this moment eventually would go down in the Trash Talking Hall of Fame. But not because Jimmy would go on and back it up or son Jokic or anything. It's because exactly 571 days later, things would go horribly wrong. On June 2nd, 2023, the NBA Finals kicked off, and fitting enough, it was between the Nuggets and the Heat. An opportunity for some revenge, depending on how you look at it, for both teams. But it wouldn't take very long for us to find out which team, or more specifically, which player would come out on top with the last laugh. Before the start of the series, the media played up to the Morris and Jokic incident from a year and a half earlier as a way to hype up the matchup. That was otherwise kind of dull compared to a matchup like the Nuggets and Celtics, for example. But when asked before Game 1 if the fight from over a year ago would have any bearing over the series and if there were still any lingering feelings or bad blood, Jimmy Butler knew Jokic was in the midst of a historic playoff run. So, for his own good, Jimmy tried downplaying any beef, but we all knew there was some. I can't blame the guy. He said that he wasn't talking to Jokic when he was screaming from the other side of the court, telling someone to bring their booty to the back.
But I don't think it has too much to do with anything. It's a thing of the past, high-level competition. But I will say, I wasn't talking to Jokic. That wasn't my beef, so make sure you write that. And the individual who I was talking to definitely know who I was talking to.
But little did Jimmy know, Jokic was already prepared. He had kept his receipts and didn't care whether or not the Heat felt like they had a beef with him. He was going to go out there and destroy his matchups regardless. The biggest sign of any elite team is how they respond. After losing Game 2 and their first home game this entire postseason, the Miami Heat really felt that they had a shot to snag momentum against the team with the best player in the world. They were going back home to Miami for Game 3 and had a unique opportunity to seize command. But the slow Serbian dude wasn't going to allow any of that. This time, a 30-20-10 game. The dude's 7 feet tall and continues to defy NBA history and plays the game like he's alone in his backyard. With 32 points, 21 rebounds, and 10 assists in his team's 15-point win, the Joker became the first player in NBA history to have a 30-point, 20-rebound, 10-assist game in the finals. But should we actually be surprised? At least Jokic wasn't. In fact, he couldn't care less. All he wanted was to avenge losing Game 2 in front of Denver fans and embarrass the Heat for even letting the thought of winning the series cross their minds. And he now had his team, his franchise, just 2 wins away from winning its first NBA championship in the franchise's lengthy existence. When asked about his silly, great stat line, Jokic gave the most Jokic response. I mean, to be honest, not much. I'm just glad that we won the game. It was a big one for us just because they won in our arena, so we didn't want to go down 2-1.
Take a look at that again. They're letting a lot go right now.
Keeping the ball out of the paint and on the shot.
Historic. You just watched a replay of a new milestone in NBA history with yet another otherworldly performance. A 28-year-old Nikola Jokic became the first center in NBA history to record at least 500 points and 100 assists in a single playoff run, standing alone in NBA history as arguably the most skilled 7-foot or taller player the game has ever seen. Jokic helped lift the Denver Nuggets to a breathable 3-1 lead going back home to Denver to try and close out the Miami Heat and win the franchise their first title in its entire existence. 3-1 leads in the NBA Finals pretty much means that the series is set in stone with a winner, unless you're the Warriors. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Throw in 28 more points and 16 more rebounds in the next game, and there you had it. A champion was crowned. And finally, after nearly 2 years since its original occurrence, we found out who the true warrior of this beef was.
Now you are an NBA champion, Nikola. How does that feel?
It's good. It's good. The job is done. We can go home now.
Jimmy and the Heat wanted Jokic in the back. Well, don't look now, because Jokic just told them that they tried and failed to mess with the wrong guy. I don't care what anyone says. Jokic might not look intimidating, he might not look like he can walk on water like Michael Jordan, but he has that killer instinct inside him that fuels his game and makes him one of the best pressure performers in all the NBA. It's one thing to scream at the top of your lungs to challenge a guy when you're angry or in the heat of the moment, but this is the result when a player thrives in the biggest moments and is ready to issue or accept any challenge thrown at him. The Heat were in the wrong place at the wrong time twice, and they paid for it.